In the violent world of professional wrestling, pain is scripted, but suffering is not. Tonight, we uncover the dark and disturbing story of a man who lived for brutality, bled for entertainment, and died forgotten by the industry he helped shape. A man whose body was broken long before his final breath. Axl Rotten was known as a hardcore legend, a warrior who thrived in chaos, steel chairs, barbed wire, and blood-soaked arenas. But behind the fearless persona was a tragic human being, slowly destroyed by addiction, injuries, and abandonment. His death wasn't just sudden, it was haunting, mysterious, and deeply unsettling. This is not just the story of a wrestler. This is the story of how fame fades, how pain accumulates, and how a legend can die alone, unseen, and unheard. Brian Knighton, later known to the wrestling world as Axl Rotten, was born on July 25, 1971, in Baltimore, Maryland. Growing up, Brian was fascinated by the larger-than-life heroes of professional wrestling. Like many young fans, he dreamed of escaping an ordinary life and becoming something unforgettable. What he couldn't have known was that this dream would eventually consume him. Training in the brutal independent wrestling circuit, Brian adopted the name Axl Rotten, a persona inspired by chaos, rebellion, and destruction. From the very beginning, his identity was tied to pain. Unlike traditional wrestlers who relied on athleticism or charisma, Axl embraced violence as his calling card, and it worked. Axl Rotten rose to prominence in Extreme Championship Wrestling (ECW) during the 1990s, an era when wrestling crossed into dangerous territory. ECW was not about safety, it was about shock. And Axl Rotten fit perfectly. His infamous feud with Ian Rotten became legendary, pushing the limits of human endurance. Barbed wire baseball bats, broken tables, thumbtacks, and unprotected headshots became routine. Crowds chanted his name as blood poured from his body. Each match escalated the violence, each night pushing him closer to physical ruin. What fans cheered as hardcore was actually years of irreversible damage being carved into his body. Behind the curtain, Axl Rotten's body was failing. Years of chair shots caused severe concussions. His spine, hips, and knees were deteriorating. Chronic pain became his constant companion. Like many wrestlers of his era, Axl turned to painkillers just to function. Prescription medication slowly became dependency, and dependency became addiction. The industry that once celebrated his suffering offered no health care, no long-term support, and no safety net. As newer wrestlers replaced him, bookings disappeared. The cheers faded. The pain remained. As his physical condition worsened, Axl Rotten's mental health declined rapidly. Depression set in. He struggled with homelessness, reportedly living in shelters at various points in his life. For a man once adored by thousands, isolation became his cruel reality. Wrestling promotions moved on, fans forgot, and the hardcore legend became invisible. The scars on his body were visible, but the ones in his mind were far deeper. Wrestling had taken everything from him, yet leaving it felt impossible. The ring was the only place he had ever mattered. On February 4, 2016, Axl Rotten was found dead in a Baltimore hotel room at just 44 years old. The official cause of death was reported as an accidental overdose involving prescription medication. But for many fans, the circumstances felt tragically inevitable. Years of untreated injuries, mental health struggles, and substance abuse had finally taken their toll. There was no grand farewell, no televised tribute, no roaring crowd, just silence. A man who once survived barbed wire and steel could not survive the aftermath of the business he loved. Axl Rotten's legacy is complicated. To some, he is a hardcore icon who helped define an era. To others, he is a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens when entertainment values pain more than people. His story exposes the dark underbelly of professional wrestling, especially in the independent scene, where performers sacrifice their bodies with little protection or reward. Axl Rotten didn't just die young, he was slowly destroyed long before his final day. His life forces us to ask a painful question. Was the violence worth it? Axl Rotten lived by pain, entertained through suffering, and died in silence. His story is not just tragic, it is necessary. Because behind every extreme moment lies a human cost. And if his story is remembered, perhaps fewer will follow the same path.